Looking at different topics which impact agriculture and what are the challenges. Bosch globally is, in short intro about Bosch, globally is around a 54 billion euro company. We are present in different segments, primarily in automotive is where we are best known, but we are also present in many other fields, industrial, white goods, power tools, and the lot. In India, we have one of the biggest development centers outside of Germany, where Bosch is actually located. And this entity is also involved in developing technologies and solutions in the area of agriculture. We primarily work with customers in India, but the same solutions then gets deployed globally because we work also with teams across the world to replicate these solutions and to validate the solutions in different geographies, different markets, and different requirements. I take a cue from Mr. Ram Kundania, who the Director General of ABLE, who mentioned how technology is becoming important in the area of agriculture. That was something which I take a cue from, and I would be covering the different technology areas where we are working. Some of this might be relevant for you and maybe also close to something which you are working on. It will be a pleasure to discuss on that later. And of course, I also take a cue from what Mr. Bhattacharya in the previous presentation covered. So I will be covering one case study specifically on how we are using smart irrigation techniques. But this case study, not in California, but right here in India, how we are working with small farmers. Again, we can always have bigger solutions, but at the same time, if you want to address the requirements of the local customers and local farmers, and the farming community, we need to also address it in a scalable manner. Yeah. Okay. I think these are topics which are well covered. Me being the sixth in the row, I think some things are already covered, but it's also a disadvantage that many things might be a repeat for you, so I apologize for that. And I also apologize for a sore throat in case I'm interrupted. So going ahead, I think these are major challenges in agriculture, I think well known. Population is increasing, so the demand is increasing. At the same time, the yield is getting impacted because of various reasons, including climate change. The arable land is shrinking because of industrialization, because of growing population and the need for additional land. So a lot of agricultural land is getting reduced. And last but not the least, when we talk about agriculture, it's not about producing more agriculture, not just about producing more agricultural products, but also ensuring how we reduce the wastage, thereby having more left for consumption. This was about global, so I thought maybe the question could be that, okay, global, does it all apply to us in India? Of course, some of them apply because they are mega trends or mega impacts. At the same time, there are also micro challenges in India, for example, smaller land holdings, and the profits that our farmers are able to make are sometimes very, very thin. We have other challenges in terms of what kind of business models we can deploy, how do we support the farmers to apply technology in a smaller scale. So I will not go to the slide, but just to reflect on that these are also points which are very much relevant for us in Southern Asia, including India. Talking about some trending technologies, I'm just once again probably touching upon the few points, but at the same time, what I would like to mention is when we talk about technology, it's not just about technologies which can be deployed as point solutions. It's very important to ensure that they are interconnected, because the best results come when you are able to interconnect not just the technology, but also in terms of how you exchange data, how you use the data, and how do we work together in the whole ecosystem to ensure that the best results are achieved. So it starts right at the soil or right at the environment, I would say. We call it below the soil and above the soil. So we have sensing technologies, sensors, different kind of sensors for both below the soil as well as above the soil. Once you have sensed, then you need to collate this information, the data together to make sense out of it. So that's where our sensor networks, wireless networks come into play. There are different ways of how you can collect this information. One is using sensors, which is like a hyperlocal solutions. It could be weather sensors, soil sensors. You could take it to the next level of granularity where you use aerial survey techniques like drones. And the next level of technology is where you use remote sensing information, which of course there are existing players like ISRO who provide this, but of course the granularity comes at a different stage. But at the end, for us to work on the different solutions, whether at a very local farmer level or at a larger farm, I think it's important to be able to understand and integrate these three different sources of information. And that's how we do farm mapping. Farm mapping can happen in different layers. GIS concepts, how you apply that. It could be at irrigation level, fertigation level, soil properties. So there are different layers in how it is developed. Information once available for decision making has to be delivered to those who are responsible for decision making. It could be a farmer, it could be a corporate contract farming community. So there are different ways of doing it. So, but we see a huge trend in usage of ICT and mobile solutions, which is making a difference for the future. Then comes automation. Yes, automation is there in mature markets in large scale, but I think it was referred to also earlier that we look at how we miniaturize it, how we make it affordable, how we can make it applicable, and of course how we make it accessible. I'll talk about it later in a business model. Smart agriculture, or in a connected agriculture mode, you actually move further. The next dimension of smart agriculture would be where we are moving into precision agriculture. Precision agriculture works a lot with integrating technologies like telematics and position technologies, where it's not only just about collecting information from the soil or the environment, but integrating with those actuators or those machines which are operating to correct certain scenarios occurring in the field, whether it's low moisture in the soil or high presence of certain nutrients in the soil, which can also be counterproductive to the crop, or even in certain crops like cashews and things like that, you actually have to follow a trend during the full cycle of the crop. So how do you control that also is very important. Last but not the least, another major trend which we see, which can bring a lot of benefit, is how we use big data and analytics. These are already yielding high results worldwide, but at the same time, the starting point of that is you should have data. If you don't have data, I think the rest of it will not function. So it all comes back to how you are collecting data using sensors and different sensing technologies. So these we see as major trending technologies, and our solutions, I think in agriculture is where we should integrate this. We are active in some of these fields, and we also very actively collaborate with partner organizations. I am very happy to say that 6 months earlier, I think we had a similar event, and during that event we were able to forge some collaborations with some local players, and we are working together today with customers. Next level was precision farming. I think precision farming brings in a lot of different aspects together, starting right from irrigation to monitoring the farm parameters, then crop scouting, phenotyping. Soil is a very important aspect, and then you come to yield monitoring. But they're all interlinked. So if you are able to work on this, it actually takes you to the next level. For those who are technology enthusiasts, I thought you might be interested to look at how the architecture looks like. So it's an integration of hardware, software, on which these different technologies will reside, they will operate. I'll not go into the details on this, but I think this is also probably interesting for some of you here as technology entrepreneurs to look at what's going to take us to that level where we operate as precision farming. At this point of time, I think it's right to also mention that while we may have a perception that that precision farming is only for large farms, multi 100 acres or maybe much more, 1,000 acres, and only in Europe and US, it's not really the case, because we see that there is a lot of also possibilities here. The question is, how can we adapt these same solutions for small scale usage? It will take some time, because also it's not just about we providing the solutions, there has to be also acceptance for these solutions. But more and more we see contract farming and cooperative farming, where probably if this really works out, then we can also look at how we can apply at least a few of them, if not all, at least a few of them with relevance for an Indian context or maybe an ASEAN context also. So far about technology. Now it's probably time to also go into sharing with you a specific use case, and smart irrigation. So water stress is always a concern in many regions, and in many parts of Karnataka, especially North Karnataka, we see a lot of challenges there, and even beyond Karnataka we have these same challenges. But we have good access to progressive farmers in this region, and we have done a specific study where we have deployed this solution in North Karnataka area. So here is just an outline architecture of what the solution is. Pretty simple, but at the same time we have tried to infuse the key technologies associated with how we can scale it up. While we want to do the case study in a way where we can scale it up to even larger firms. So it includes a specific controller which is the heart of the system, but this is driven, the decisions driven by this controller solution is based on inputs that it receives, and you see the inputs on the extreme right hand side. So we have sensors on the ground, also to collect data at the same time to see how we are able to control it. So this data of course cannot be wired, so it's a wireless sensor network which is like a peer-to-peer mesh. We can keep adding sensors and keep removing sensors, and it recognizes on its own. We have a water source, and basically it's all about managing this water source because of the water scarcity. At the same time, since it has to be in a larger scale, we have used some wireless technologies also. It's not just relevant for water, it's also relevant for fertigation, but at this point I would say fertigation was not our core focus. We have more looked at managing water resource availability and its usage. This was done in Bidar with a ginger grower. Around 5 acres was what he made available to us, and this test duration we did was for 6 months. And you see some results here. Of course, it was a wow moment for our team to look at the results. But at the same time, I think for us, when we look from a larger perspective, I should also caution that while we see major savings in a lot of areas, it is also an indication of what was the previous state, how it was managed. If the previous state was not in a very well managed way, obviously the results would look really, really good or really, really positive. But I think we are waiting to get similar results from other fields, other deployments to validate to what extent we can say. But I am sure and I am confident that these solutions will bring in a lot of relief and a lot of savings in terms of, and real money savings for the farmer. So what we are doing is not only doing it here in India. Here in India we are doing with sugarcane and ginger. We have also some plans to deploy some solutions in coffee fields. But we are also replicating this solution in Japan in a horticulture scenario, and also in Germany for a particular crop. So we are trying to see to what extent these solutions are usable and how reliable are these results that we get. So while having said that, we have had very positive results from this activity so far, and we are positive that our farmers will be willing to pay for such a solution. That's very important, their willingness to pay. I should also mention, I think, a few pivoting points which are lessons learned for any of you who are planning to experiment. I think this could be quite valuable. So we have some challenges there, and we had to deal with those challenges. Specifically looking at power availability and quality of power was a major issue. So how do we deal with phase losses and voltage ranges? Then second thing was network reliability, because a lot of it works on also using public networks, wireless networks. So network reliability at such locations, especially remote locations, was a big challenge, and we had to do a lot of manual monitoring of the results at the very initial stages till we were confident that we could rely to a certain extent on data. Network reliability occurs at 2 stages. One is in the control mechanism, and other second part is in the sensing mechanism. As far as the sensing, we were able to build in the design buffers to collect the data so that the data is usable at a later stage. But in the real-time controlling solutions, I think we had some challenges which we had to overcome. Asset safety and protection is very important. So how do you manage access control? How do you manage these hubs and nodes? Because the nodes, so we tried looking at putting the nodes somewhere as far as possible underground so that they are not visible, because many times they are just kicked around. Somebody passing by the field looks like some plastic stuff here with a box, nice box and an antenna. What is it? It gets inquisitive, kicks around. Sometimes it's picked up. But here in this case we had a lot of support from the owner himself in ensuring. So ownership is also very important in ensuring asset safety and protection. We thought of putting some kind of a post on which we could install this, but nevertheless I think that's not 100% assured of safety. So we need somebody to take ownership on this. And last but not the least, I think the closed loop control, we did it in a phase-wise manner. And to ensure that no, we were able to understand the conditions before we go into a completely closed loop solution. But then again, I think it's worth mentioning that when we configure the system, I think it's important that to understand there will be variations in terms of field and soil conditions. Yeah, so it's not same for all. So if you look at black soil, the way it responds to a more clay soil or muddy soil, I think the response is different. So that's something which you also have to ensure. Yeah, so this was something which we did, and this is an experiment and the study which has been done very locally, and a solution which is industrialized, taking to the market. So wanted to share with you. Last but not the least, it's not just about this. I think we are looking at some future innovations also. So I would like to share with you some work which is going on in the field of robotics, which is also something which we are developing to automate the process of agriculture, and we strongly believe that going forward in the future, labor shortage and other aspects might at some point of time also start justifying a miniaturized version or a simpler version of this in our localities. Currently this is used in Europe. This is a fully flexible and fully automatically guided solution, which has also computer vision built into it. So primarily it has been designed to allow for de-weeding without using chemicals. I think that's something which we really wanted to stress, that we want to look for techniques of de-weeding without using chemicals. And for that specific fitments and attachments have been designed. That has to be also soil dependent on the hardness of the soil. It's not uniform. So pressure settings and configurations are depending on the hardness of the soil. But what this is able to do is, using cameras, it's able to recognize weeds and able to exterminate these weeds by using a plunger mechanism. So it identifies a weed and uses a plunger to bury the weed under the soil. And at regular intervals, it's able to then do this. Once we have this already configured, we were able to use it for spray techniques and also measurement of soil conditions. So I think currently these are the 3-4 solutions that we are using for, and we are looking forward to using it in additional applications. So in short, I think that's in short. Yep. So that's it, and 3 key messages I would like to leave with. I think she's already here. Time up for me. First and foremost, technology infusion, while it comes at a cost, has definitive contribution towards reducing the cost of inputs and increasing yield. I think we believe in this. Second is, time's still running, thank you. Second is, access to technology can be enabled using customized solutions. So they are not usable as is across all the regions. I think this is very important. And the second very important point is we need some innovative business models to be able to ensure that this is available. And third is, whatever technology we use, I think first and foremost we have to understand that this should be sustainable, because it's not that we do something today and we spoil the natural resources for the future. So third and important point is, sustainable use of these natural resources is very important. I think that's what we believe in, and that's what we are working on.
Thank you, Mr. Goswami.